Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation. And I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting.
Woo, Tommy Lewis.
Hey, what's going on?
Man, we are hanging in there, brother. How are you?
Doing good, Eric. Doing real good, man. Blessed and highly favored. And very, very appreciative of just being able to come together with you, Eric, and talking with the community and learning almost every day. Well, I would say learning every day.
Absolutely.
Very, very happy and blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tommy. We missed you all last week. Just took a small break, and we're back with you. Just a lot going on in these days and times. And Tommy, how was your week, man?
I had a good week, Eric. A lot of proposal writing, a lot of kind of meeting after meeting after meeting. And I'm not doing a whole bunch of talking during the meetings, but I'm learning a lot. And that's my job. And we're working with the client out in Durango, Colorado. That's going well. We're working as the diversity and inclusion outreach consultant for a major national project here in Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky. It's the Brent Spence Bridge project. For those who have ever been in the kind of the Midwest, the tri-state area, it is the bridge or one of the bridges that connects Cincinnati to Northern Kentucky. It carries about $1 billion of freight every day.
Wow.
Every day. And it has been aging for the last 40 to 50 years, of course. And we are charged with inviting minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and most particularly disadvantaged business enterprises, DBEs, inviting them to participate in the build, to grow the economic footprint throughout this region. And so I wanted to really spotlight that, Eric,
right?
Because the DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, has a number of different requirements. One of which that your company can't make more than several millions of dollars annually. And most companies, we don't make $100 million. We don't make $25 million. And so that's one criteria. The other is that if you're disadvantaged, meaning if you're in the industry that there are big box companies, you're disadvantaged because of their scale and resources. And so to level the playing field just a little bit, there's this program called the DBE program. And just recently in Kentucky, there was a lawsuit against stopping any DBE programs.
Right.
And so I would say this is what my week was. When we heard about that, I didn't flinch, right? Part of what we do is we ride with the tide.
That's exactly right, bro. And adjust.
We ride with the tide and adjust. And so I didn't want to bring in too much, sobriety there. Just wanted to say my week has been up and it's been down.
Yeah.
And we're back up again.
Yeah. Whoa. Well, first of all, I want to make this declaration that many of you have been wondering who the proverbial man is. This is the man. He is the man. Tommy's the man. He's the man on this project. He's got the power to give out contracts and jobs. The man, So that is funny. And it's a good place to be. It's a good feeling to see a brother finally be the man. But things are changing. The landscape is changing. And I'll tell you, it's just shocking that you'll fight to try to create equity. And then once you get to a place of equity and fairness, people get frustrated and they go to try to change the game again.
Right.
I was just thinking about, and when I say this, I am not trying to disparage anybody who is a Donald Trump supporter. But in all honesty, if you look at qualifications to be president of the United States, he doesn't fit or fulfill many of those. I mean, just basic knowledge that you should have, like that NATO exists, and there's just so many things, one after another, just basic understanding of how government works, of our Constitution, what it is. He doesn't know any of those things. And so the question becomes, see, diversity came along, DEI came along so that privilege and sort of advantage to the dominant culture was not, the way of the day. That's what DEI is here to interrupt. Unqualified people being considered and given the opportunity to do jobs for which they are woefully unqualified to do. And I mean, just look at the independent, not whether you like a person, not whether they have a personality, not whether you like their identity, but really, do they have the know-how, the insight, the wisdom, the understanding of the job to lead it? Do they understand what it means to have allies and enemies? Do they understand what democracy is? And do they stand by that? He doesn't fulfill any of those things. And so if he doesn't, that means he's unqualified. And so that's what is frustrating, is that when we finally get to the place where we've convinced people that people should be selected based upon meritocracy and not who they are or what they look like, then we sort of interrupt that again. So
can we stay there for a second, Eric? Just a question to run by you and the community. When we are experiencing a leader and almost everyone around the table, everyone interacting with that leader says that's not a leader.
Right.
Because that person is not articulating, is not exhibiting the characteristics
and traits.
Of a leader.
That's right. Exactly.
Right? And it's blatantly obvious.
Blatantly obvious.
Right. What?
Sorry.
What is it, Eric? What is it about the followers that see a person with minimum characteristics of a leader and still choose to follow?
It's a great question, Tommy. And so what I would say is that some people would say it's purely race, that it is just, I'm comfortable with their race. And as many people said to us during the years of Barack Obama, you shouldn't vote for a president because of his race. Right. Okay, we agree with that. But I would say that it is more complex than that as well. For many people, they have said to themselves that it's the economy. He ended up with the worst economy of all times. And so as you begin to situationally pick and choose what elements of his leadership tenure that you're okay with, we know that he mismanaged COVID in such a dramatic way that it sent us spiraling. I mean, he was just confused. I mean, he's saying crazy things. Right now, we know people would tell you that it's common sense that as former president of the United States, that while you're running for office, that you don't start hawking products. Hawking products. You don't start selling $2 coins. Whoops, Tommy, plug that in over there. You don't start selling $2 coins to the country and somehow we say that that's okay. And so I just believe that in these times, the reason why Tommy and I will lean in a little bit more on this presidential election is because we don't want history to pass us and to not ever having said to you things that should be common sense.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't dislike former President Trump. I don't dislike the people that vote for him and support him. but I want to bring back to your rational understanding things that we should be seeing that many cannot. If everybody that you entrusted in leadership that were heroes for us, because he had some people in his administration that were heroes, when those people resigned and have said that you were unfit to be returned to the White House, you cannot ignore that. You cannot make up a narrative around why somehow they don't. I had a thought about the former president, and sometimes I have these imaginations. And so I saw him as one of the Peanut characters with Charlie Brown. Just take a guess. Which Peanut character I saw as Donald Trump? I won't keep you in suspense. It's Pigpen. Pigpen wet. Took a cloud of dust. Come on, y'all. Come on now. When the president showed up in Springfield, Ohio, come on now. Springfield was fine. They were working through with the Haitians. What did he bring? A cloud of negativity and division. That's who he is. Is that the kind of leader that we want in our country? That everywhere they go, like Pigpen, they take a cloud of racism, division, and people at each other. Yeah. That's disqualifying. In other words, if that's who you are, like Pigpen, then how can we justify in any way saying that you should be given the reins of the Oval Office again?
So I don't know if I've been in any organization, my own included, where the most senior person or the most senior people who are in the company continue to share with others how bad the company is. Right? That the company is going down. Right? That this is the worst time in the company's history. And I'm leading it. Right. And it's going down. And if I'm not leading it, it's going to go away. I've never been in any organization that the leader or leaders articulated that sentiment.
Right.
What difference is it where you and I, Eric, community folks, we work in our respective organizations. And if we were to hear the chief executive officer say, this is the worst company ever.
Right.
However, I'm going to still be paid the most.
Right.
I'm going to take my 1 month vacation. I'm going to unilaterally make decisions about the company that might even hurt the company.
Right.
Hurt you,
right?
Not only for today, but for generations to come. Because, and this is what this leader says, I'm not talking about the former president, I'm talking about this type of leader.
Oh, yeah.
And the leader says, now that I've told you all that, let me sit back and watch you destroy yourselves. Why? Because I don't really care about you. I don't really care about the organization. I only care about me and mine.
Right.
And someone in the audience sticks their head up and says, wait. I understand you only care about you.
Right.
But who is the mine that you're talking about? Who's that group? And then that leader says, well, my family. Okay. Who else? I don't want to get into all that and start to squirrel. Right. If you are an intellectual, intelligent, sensitive, a person that has discernment, I beg you to see what's in front of your eyes.
Right. Exactly.
To believe what you hear, not just once, but multiple times, Eric.
Right.
How many times does someone have to tell you,
Right.
I hate you,
Right.
for you to believe it?
Right.
So we're in some times now where we need leadership, because leadership has its own definitions.
That's right.
Success has its own definitions,
Right.
and people see it differently.
Right.
And where we are now, this country, people are seeing this country differently. We're in a great place
Right.
of this land,
That's right.
but our history is repeating itself.
Man. Right. People are getting it. And so I would say that many people that are supportive of the former president are fearful. I would say there's a good portion of people that struggle with female leadership. That is an issue here. There are white men, black men, Latin men who are reveling in their sexism and struggling with a black female, an intersectional female, if you will. I would say that this question is not one of policy.
No.
So let's just take that off the table. It's not about policy, because the former president does not articulate any policies really at all, except he's going to deport 15 million people in day one. He's going to end wars in day one, all that kind of stuff. I mean, those are elementary school, non-serious responses that we have sat around and acted like those were serious policy. They're not at all. It's not about policy at all. So just wipe the slate of that. This is not about policy.
Right.
It's about identity. It's about fear. I get it. If you really are genuinely fearful of liberal, quote unquote, policies, I get it. I certainly won't stand in the way of people and what they consciously think they believe. But I just think that we're in such a place right now where we cannot allow our allies to be afraid that we can't be counted upon. Mm-hmm. And I've heard people say that the former president has too much confidence in his ability to develop relationships with people. And what they've said is that when you are a leader of a country, it's not about relationships, it's about interest. And so you are developing allyship with people who have common interests. Yeah. Not you think that you get along with Kim Jong-un and you get along with Putin and they like you. They don't like you. Right. They don't like anything about you except they believe you're gullible. And I'll tell you, when we have seen major weakness, it is a major weakness. Tommy, if I said to you, Tommy, you're so handsome. And you said, hey, I want you to be my vice president. You said, I'm so handsome. Oh my God. Thank you. You really like me. Come on, y'all.
What are we doing?
Don't act like it ain't that. It is that. It's that basic, ain't it, Tommy?
Yeah, that's basic.
It really is. I like you. Oh. You're the smartest guy in the world. It's like that. Sorry. Just bring it down to where it is.
Exactly.
Go the other way. Your crowds are leaving. They're small. They don't like you. Mm-hmm. Your crowds don't like you. They don't like me. What do you mean they don't like me? My crowds are the largest. Yep. Really? I can get you off track with those simple, basic strategies. And somehow you're supposed to be the leader of the United States of America? Unqualified.
Yeah.
Totally. And so I hope your feelings aren't hurt by those truths.
Right.
But those are basic, fundamental truths that disqualify you. There is no policy or strategy. Everything else is luck. I can't give you credit for luck because that's what the impact on the economy is. We know that it has very little to do with the president, whether it's Democrat or Republican. Come on now.
Right.
A lot of it's just lucky draws. Right now, we see what the feds are doing, and the Democrats are getting some windfall from that. The Democrats didn't do that.
Right.
And so we have to wake up and really look at some of the fundamentals. This race should not be in any way a neck and neck race at all whatsoever, because one candidate is totally and completely unqualified. Let's use that language. In a meritocratic society, he's unqualified to do the job. A felon and everything else, and just his integrity has been horrible in everything he's ever done, including selling all these products right now to us, as we sit back and take it as though it's smart. And if anybody else in the world, if Obama did any of this right here, man, if Kamala Harris was selling hair care products and all kind of stuff like that, and,
right,
and negligees and just anything.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm saying, Eric.
Come on.
When it is, there's obvious double, triple, quadruple standards.
Mm-hmm.
They're obvious. And so when one person says that selling merchandise, this person competing for the highest position in the land is selling merchandise to finance we don't know what.
No, it's just money. Got nothing to do with the campaign.
And in the same vein, knowing they may not be articulating it outward, but Eric, they know if it was someone else of a different gender, a different race,
we would lose it.
A different class,
we would lose it.
They would shut it all down,
right?
Scrap the entire policy,
right?
And rework that policy,
right?
The policy of we have a law now. If you are bidding for the highest role or position in the land, you cannot do these things.
Right?
They would create that.
Absolutely.
But that's not what's happening here.
No, if Obama was hawking Bibles, I mean, they would come
blasphemy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You would never be able to stand down on it. You would say all of heaven is up in arms over someone selling holy scripture and the word of God, with their, a picture almost on it. And so we have to really look at how deceived can we be. And the Bible says that in the last days, even the elect would be fooled. And you have to understand that you are being fooled, that there is no justification for supporting a person who's mean-spirited, who takes division everywhere he goes, who is a hate monger, who is downing our country at every turn, who is saying that our only hope is in him, not in God, not in each other, but in him. Somebody somewhere has to say that this is wrong, and we got to wake up, America. And I'm going to tell you, I am so proud of so many of our country's patriots like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. I never thought I'd see the day, Tom, when Dick Cheney would say, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting. Listen to the words of Dick Cheney. I will be voting for Kamala Harris. You can't make up a narrative about how mean and nasty and hateful she is. You just can't make up one without any evidence of it. And then the evidence that's right out there in front of you every single day, you ignore and you explain it away. I also am happy. I'm not happy, but I am happy to see Mayor Adams be indicted in New York out of the Southern District. So for everything that Trump said about the politicizing of the Justice Department, no. If you're doing wrong, the Justice Department will find you, whether you're Democrat or Republican. Why do we all sit back and keep accepting those explanations? I guess just anyone will do.
Yeah, Eric. And again, as we're talking about this, I'm always reminded, Eric, you have your lens, I have my lens. our community members have their respective lenses. And this is no secret to many of us in the community, where the topic of politics, I can talk about like we are now, but I know my limitations of control.
Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely. I have been invited over the last 20 years to run for political office.
Right. Ooh.
Oh, many times.
Right.
Many times.
Right.
I've had
Absolutely.
financiers, I've had lobbyists
Right.
come to me saying, hey, run for even the mayor of our beloved city.
Right.
And I've been honored with that ask, but respectfully turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
As we think about what we're talking about now with politics, et cetera, I'm always leaning toward finding the universal values in the experiences that we're all going through.
That's good, Tommy. I like that.
I always do. So, because in this country, elections for the president of the United States is not new.
Right.
It happens every 4 years.
Right.
So from my perspective, yeah, I can talk about going back to the 80s when I was first starting to vote up to today, but there were many, many, many more years before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I only say that because sometimes I find myself being narrow-minded with what's happening today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I move back to the universal value.
I like that, Tommy.
And the universal value that I'm seeing today is we are losing, we being people, human beings, we're losing ourselves with our true definition and exhibition of right and wrong, good or bad.
Right.
This thing of life, for those who believe,
right,
has always been a war on principalities.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a war battle of the moment.
No.
It's not a war battle on the person.
Sir. No, sir.
So yeah, we can
right.
name names, etc.
Right.
For me, Eric,
right,
I don't know any of these folks.
That's right. That's right.
I don't. I do not know Kamala Harris at all.
Right.
Never
That's
met
right.
her.
That's
I do
right.
not know Trump
Right.
at all. But I do know what my spirit is saying, what my mind is telling me, and what my eyes are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm seeing corruption. I'm seeing deceit.
Yep.
I'm seeing vindictiveness.
Yeah.
I am seeing tremendous hate, unborn, being born, and being raised.
That's exactly right.
It reminds me of a time that I wasn't around. If it was the mid 1800s, if it was the early 1900s, if it was 1950, I wasn't around, but based on what I've learned, it sounds eerily familiar. And so I don't want us, Eric, I don't want us to get lost, any of us, our community, don't get lost in the topic.
Or the gamesmanship of it.
Yeah, don't get lost in the topic. If we're talking about politics, if we're talking about religion, if we're talking about race, anything that's diversity conversations, don't get lost in the topic. The topic is important.
Right.
Be found in the learning.
That's good, Tommy.
What do we take away?
That's right.
That will directly impact my life such that I can impact others.
Right. And so let me follow up that with this. That what Tommy and I are saying, whether you agree with it or not,
right?
Here's our point. We want to make this crystal clear that whoever wins the presidency of the United States of America in 2024, we're going to be okay. If Donald Trump becomes our president again, we will survive that. For those of you that believe in Donald Trump and you support him and you're looking forward to voting for him, that will not disqualify you from being my friend. I will love you, care about you, fight alongside you, have a picnic with you. I am not going to let any of this foolishness impact my character in such a way that I don't find ways to connect with you and to care deeply about you. So no matter what you think about what we say, whether you agree with us or not, I want you to be clear about this one thing. It's not disqualifying for us in terms of our desire to care about you, to connect with you, and to pray for our former president. I literally have been praying for him. I have been believing, while other people think I'm crazy, I have been believing that God can touch his heart and change the way he operates. And so, so we try to continue to align ourselves with our character and our beliefs. Let's see what our friend.
Indeed. Dr. Gibbs, thank you for chiming in, and Roger Miller and others. Hey, Eric, Dr. Gibbs says this: one of my Jewish friends asked me, how can a believer in Jesus Christ ever vote for a man who touches women, puts down people, racist, and is so negative, say they love Jesus?
Right. And so what I would say, my sister and I have grown up together in the Church of God. And here's what I would say is that I know that all of us can be deceived. I also know that neither party nor either candidate is perfectly aligned with the Word of God, my beliefs, your beliefs, or anybody's beliefs. So we are not going to find a person here on earth that is going to be perfectly aligned with the teachings of Christ. And I would say to you that people, just like they use the word, you can use the Bible and the Word of God to make any argument that you want to make. And so what I try to do is avoid dropping to the level of the world in order to make my points. What I believe is that my character should line up with my beliefs and the teaching of Christ. And so since God has taught me to love those who hate me, to love my enemy, that's what I have to focus on, even though my flesh wants to make all these points around why Donald Trump is nowhere close to aligned with the principles of God. If people are believing that he is and believing that he's God's man for this time, I'm not the one that's going to try to argue them that he's not.
When we think about people going to work, working with their respective organizations, institutions, agencies, Eric, and there may be certain hot button topics that people prefer not to touch.
Yeah.
In times like this, it may be politics, right? We're not going to touch it.
Yeah.
At work, we're not going to talk about it. It may be race. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. It may be class, the disparity of wealth, not only the poor and the uber rich, but I'm just talking about in the company.
Right.
Like, how do you get paid that much money and I'm getting paid this, and we're just one tier difference from one another?
Right.
All that. My question is, when do we as people stand on our identity and truth? In other words, I know people who have a particular political view that they're standing on in private because they don't want to have that discourse.
That's right.
I know people who have particular views about other races, other people, other roles, other positions, other industries. I know people who have maybe negative views and ideas about the other, but they keep it under wraps. They may vote a certain way, but you never knew. They may be thinking about a certain thing, and then they may be empowered to create some policy that has you, that discriminates against you because they don't like you.
Right.
When are we going to just say it? You said it before, Eric, for companies that on your website just post how you stand.
Right.
You said it.
Right.
Here's who we are.
Right.
Not hiding behind the bushes.
Right.
There's a lot of people, Eric, and I'm not just talking about the other people. I'm talking about myself.
Oh
too.
yeah, me too, bro.
What do I actually stand on? And if it's truth, when I hear a lie at work with another employee lying about another employee, do I have the character, the integrity to stand up and speak on their behalf?
Yeah.
Because this will happen. Look, Eric, it's happening to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dealing with some folks, working with a couple of clients who talk very badly about their colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said diplomatically, I've said, whoa, that's
right. Out of bounds.
Do we need to go there?
Yeah.
And I throw my style in, Eric, and I say, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
Right? We're all human beings. And if you have all the answers to life, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
And they chuckle. Then I circle back like, what is it about you that you don't want other people to know? So what? Yeah. Tell us what you don't want us to know so we can judge you, because right now you're judging them.
Yeah.
Don't throw stones in a glass house.
Right.
Eric, it really upsets me that we're at this place that a lot of folks in their ideas, their views, their beliefs have surfaced, but then there are many others who've gone below the waterline. They may be undercover racist, bigots, sexist, right? And they are in roles of power, but they're quiet about it.
Yes, sir.
We got to surface it.
So let me respond to Tommy. Tommy, that's a mouthful right there.
Yep.
And I would say it's loaded. And Dr. Rhonda, I'm going to get right to your question here. But that's a loaded question. And I would say to you that I wish I could say that I am 100% courageous to say the things that I most believe.
Right.
I'd love to live in a world of transparency where we could have open and honest dialogue about things without being canceled because I see something differently than you. But because of the world that we live in today, and because people are so easily offended, that makes it hard for us to be transparent around what we believe. Because there will be some people to say, if you believe that and you're espousing that, then that disqualifies you from somehow being a fair arbiter of fairness conversations. And so, unfortunately, and I think that each of us has to make our own decision around where we will stand. Tommy and I in the past may not have taken a stand, say anything political, because we understand that as soon as you take a stand at all, there's a record in the earth that somebody can go back and say, look, they're political. We just feel that it's so important at this point in time for us to use our voice to show people how to try to speak truth without disparaging people and those that support the other candidates. So that's what we want to model to people, that you can vote differently than us, you can believe differently than us. We're not going to let your differences cause us to not like you. We are just going to try to speak with a full-throated mouth, speak our truth about this political, and you have the same freedom and ability to do the same. Now, what Dr. Rhonda has said to us is, what are some creative ways to help Gen Y and Zers see the importance of voting in this election? I think they are seeing that. I mean, we're seeing some of their icons come forward with their positions and their support. And I think that is having an impact on Gen Y and Zers. I think that the other thing that both political parties have to do is they have to really engage people year round and not just every 4 years when they're running for office.
Sure.
And the fact that they are not engaging people enough is the reason why we have so much foolishness right now. What Kamala Harris is saying right now, I think, is the exact right strategy, and I hope she holds on to that if she wins the presidency. And that is be the president of the entire nation and make sure that you have in your cabinet Republicans and young people and just a diversity of people that represent this country, conservatives and liberals. And so that's what I believe is the answer. And I'm believing, Tommy, I'm believing right now that the election of Kamala Harris could be the beginning of breaking the fever of our alliance to hatred and anger-centered leadership. I'm hopeful. If President Trump is returned to office, that's scary to me. That's concerning in a major way. But I also think that it's an opportunity as well for us to see how bad things can get as maybe part of the answer. So just like golf, Tommy and I believe that no matter how you play in a round of golf, you win. If you play a good game, you get a low score, your game's getting better. If you get a high score, your handicap's something you can play to. So either way, we win. And so I would say to you that I believe that the ultimate destiny of this country wins either way. And I don't think that our work is less relevant if Donald Trump becomes president again. I think it's actually more relevant and more important. But here's what I want to say to you. Never give up. Understand that the course of the future is bigger than you and me. It's bigger than what we can do all by ourselves. But we don't want to see ourselves on the sidelines in an election that is so consequential.
I think this is a great question, Eric, for two reasons. And the question is creative ways to help Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z see the importance of voting. I think this is a critical and important question because I would ask this same question to voters who understand that the electoral vote has more power than the popular vote.
Mm-hmm.
Our votes as citizens is a popular vote. So not only Gen Y and Gen Z, they're trying to understand, why should I vote? It's not important. There's folks, baby boomers and the like, to say, I voted just because history. But in the last few elections, I've learned that the electoral vote rules the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think part two is having a conversation with Gen Y and Gen Z. Again, you can't have a conversation with the whole generation.
Right.
But just having conversations around why do they think it is not important and why might they think it is important? To have them, just like us, articulate both ways. Oftentimes in voting, we're actually voting for the better of two.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's the candidates, we're going for, in our mind, the better of the two.
Right. Right.
If it's voting, I'm voting because I've had, there's history where myself or people like me could not vote.
Right.
So the better of the two, not being able to vote at all or voting. Some people are voting because they can.
Right.
Some people are voting to try to make the difference.
Right.
My vote counts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're spreading that good gospel, and other folks are voting. And now we have the increased popular vote.
Mm-hmm.
So Gen Y, Gen Z may not have had the best examples of why voting is important from the previous generation.
Right.
May not have had that.
Right.
If you are a Gen X, maybe even a baby boomer, the previous generation says, I could not vote at all.
Right.
And I'm voting.
Right.
The importance of voting is citizenship.
Right.
Now you're making a connecting point.
Right.
The importance of voting for me is I don't want high taxes. Oh, that sounds good for me.
Right.
So it has to be a passion point,
right,
to Gen Y and Gen Z of why voting is important. Otherwise, they, as they are doing now, will sit back and watch and say, let's see what these folks gonna do.
Right. And I'll build on that, that there is no disconnection between Gen Y, Gen Z, and the generations that came before them. I would say to you that much of our hope is in the fact that there is a connection. I was just out this last week, went into Grader's to get myself a large milkshake, no whipped cream, with lots of cherries. But before I got to the counter, I saw my good friend, Reverend Michael Wheatley. Now, Michael Wheatley married to Sandy Wheatley. I love them both to death. Sandy was a consultant with Integrity for years, just a wonderful individual, a beautiful family. She and I still talk periodically. We'll talk about the election and, just wonderful people. And there Mike Wheatley was in Graders with his grandson. And as Mike was talking to me about his frustration and his fear and even the anger that sometimes bubbles up in him over the political landscape that we're in right now, there his grandson was. Wonderful, wonderfully kind eyes, just turned 18, and he's going to be able to vote. And he is such a beautiful heart of humility that I ultimately don't even care who he votes for. But what I saw in him was a wonderful person that showed that the apple does not fall far from the tree. And so I think that that's powerful. The other thing that I want to offer to you, community, is that as you begin to think about and consider how you're going to influence people around you, whether it's Gen Y or Z, whether it's people you believe are going to vote for Kamala Harris and you want to encourage them to get out, whether it's people that you're fearful that they're going to vote for the former president, Donald Trump, I'm going to recommend something to you that Tommy Lewis did this morning. I'm going to suggest that you make a part of that conversation. I call these tea cakes. That's what my grandmother and them used to call them.
Yes, sir.
Tea cakes. Tommy brought these little tea cakes in today, and they look like boats. I mean, really, as they're just floating around. You notice half of them are gone. I have consumed half of the tea cakes. Now, whatever he asked me to do after consuming all the tea cakes, I don't choice. So I'm telling you, before you enter into these conversations, equip yourself with some tea cakes. Tell me where you get the tea cakes from.
I got them from a special place.
Okay.
It's the place of influence, right? And how do you come in to bridge and connect with other folks?
That's right.
Other folks. And in all seriousness,
right,
and with humor, we know in a lot of communities to bring folks together, Eric.
Absolutely, bro. You better get some food.
Bring food.
You better get some food.
Bring food and have dialogue.
Right.
Food, some beverages, etc.
Right.
It really is the music that soothes the savage beast.
That's right. That's right. And make sure you'll see Tommy and I. There's no sound that I love more than the sound of laughter.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, Tommy and I bust out in a real, genuine, straight from the gut laugh. And I'll tell you that I'm going to encourage you to take that with you everywhere you go. The furrowed eyebrow, the upset heart, the anxiety that's just turning inside of your belly. I want you to know you can literally feel that taking life from you.
Yes, sir.
But when you laugh with anybody, you can literally feel it bringing life to you. And so my final suggestion to you is invest more time laughing than you do in difficult conversations. Make sure that you're listening enough to jazz music, to comedians, to people that fill your insides with joy. because we have to survive our politics in order to deliver our best contributions to the communities that we live in and the world around us. Tommy, you get the final word.
Final word, Eric. If you could, let's share a teacup, and we're going to take us out. Let me grab a teacup as well, and we're going to go ahead and break bread or break teacups together.
Mm-hmm.
And not bad at all.
I mean, these things,
Mm.
it's so good, y'all.
Mm.
I'm about to go get me a whole box of. Now, I know I don't need to go for the diabetes. I know, but guess what? No, you got to go somewhere.
This has turned into a cooking show. Cooking show. Break bread. Love yourself. Love each other. Love the opportunities and what the future will bring. Love that we will still, as Eric said so well, we're gonna be okay.
We're gonna be okay, boy. I feel more like that though now, Tommy. After eating a few of these tea cakes and having this conversation with you all, it brings back to the this atmosphere, our ancestors, my father, my mother, my grandmother. I miss them, but relationships like we have here,
Yes, sir.
and friendships with people like you are gonna make the difference. We love you. Make sure that you tell somebody around you that you love them as well, because that's the lifeblood of our society, is an ability to continue to love each other in spite of everything else that's happening. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Take care.